Welcome to the Social Bee Podcast with your host, Louise Brogan. Every week, Louise will be bringing you a podcast all about women entrepreneurs, talking about their challenges, their goals, and inspiring you to either start your own business or grow the business you have. Visit www.socialbeeni.com to join our community and pick up some lovely freebies to start marketing your business online today.
Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Social Bee Podcast. Today I think we can say that we're old friends now, although we've only known each other during 2018. But a good friend of mine, Lucy Eckley. Lucy is the owner of Build Your Brand Story, and she's been in business as an independent consultant for 8 years. So actually, Lucy, your business is older than mine. Well done. I'm delighted to have you on the podcast today. Welcome.
Hello there. Thanks so much for having me.
It's really great. We've just come back for the weekend, spending the weekend together in London at the Youpreneur Summit, which was a fantastic event. Kudos to Chris Ducker for pulling off such a brilliant event. So we both got brains buzzing full of ideas, haven't we, Lucy?
Oh, I think mine's exploding, and I'm trying to find the time now to actually sit down and implement all the ideas and inspiration that we got from the weekend. Quite amazing.
I know. I said to somebody, Jessica Lorimer, actually, we were messaging on LinkedIn, and I said to her, I need to wipe my whole whiteboard clean and just splatter all my thoughts down on it so I don't get, and then at least they're written down, and then I can actually move on with doing my work this week.
I've just got all the notebooks. It's like keeping everything in one place. I've got my ideas across so many different places. And so I think a whiteboard's a great idea.
Yes, mine's a giant whiteboard too. It's the size of the one in, what do you call that program about the 4 geeky guys that live together and the girl across the hall? Sheldon, he's called?
Oh, I don't know that one.
Okay, anyway, it doesn't really matter. But yeah, he has a giant whiteboard in his kitchen, and mine's the same size, so it's enormous. Anyway, Lucy, please do introduce yourself to my audience and tell everybody what it is that you do, please.
I help independent consultants to build their personal brands so that they can stand out from the crowd and attract their ideal clients. If you put that another way, I help them attract their ideal clients simply by being themselves. So for me, the complete opposite of putting spin in PR and branding. That's something that really drives me crazy when people say, can you put your spin on it? And as somebody with a marketing and comms background, I've had that said to me many, many times. So I'm just really passionate about the fact that people are unique. And it's, the personality, it's your backstory, what's brought you to where you are today, to what you do, to gain the expertise you have, to be that person for your ideal clients. And that's really for me what is behind what I do, helping people to stand out from the crowd and actually just really embrace being themselves and everything that has brought them to where they are in running their independent business today.
That's excellent. So you mentioned that you have a background in marketing. So what was your corporate role before you started your business?
So I started way back. My career, which is quite long now, started in traditional marketing. I did the Chartered Institute of Marketing qualifications, started off working in-house in financial services marketing. So I got a really, really good grounding of how to run a marketing campaign, all the things that sit behind communication strategy. Went and lived and worked in New Zealand for a while, came back to the UK, and I accidentally got involved in something that was quite a new discipline back there called internal communications. So back in the day, that used to be when somebody kind of stuck a notice on a notice board and people were sort of supposed to read it or pinged out the odd newsletter. But it became a lot more strategic in the sort of early 2000s. And I was ready to move on, and I saw a job role advertised, which sounded like a sort of mini internal agency. And I said to the recruiters that had posted the ad, I think this is for internal communications. So this was like an accidental step for me. But basically, it involved working with CEOs, working with leadership team in that organization to really help them communicate better with their teams around the UK.
That's so funny, because it is one of those words that you hear, internal communications, and I never really, it's one of those, it's like Chandler Bing and Friends. What did he actually do? So that's really well a great way of describing it. So now I've learned something new today. That's good.
Yeah, and I think it is Good. I'm always glad to help people understand jargon, really, because I think that's what it is, and I guess that's partly what I do, and that's what I did in the internal comms role was helping teams around a business understand jargon, because business leaders often are great at articulating their strategy, mapping out where the business is going to go. But in terms of translating that into something that makes sense for somebody, regardless of whatever role they're doing in a big organization, it's about this example has been shared so many times, but the quote about the guy at NASA who was sweeping the floor, and somebody came in to visit NASA and said to the guy who was sweeping the floor, "What are you doing?" And he didn't say, "I'm sweeping the floor." He said, "I'm helping to put a man on the moon." And that's the kind of clarity of understanding the strategy and getting everybody all pulling in the same direction that communicating well in a business should really achieve.
Well, I have never heard that example before, so thank you for sharing it.
Thank you. So that's what I was doing, and I actually found it was kind of a real sweet spot for me, because I had this communications background, communication strategy, but I've always really been passionate about working with people and helping people get the best experience out of something, but also around a business strategy as well. And I was in this really privileged role. I think when you work in this kind of discipline, more so even than marketing or media relations in a business, you really sort of get into the inner workings of a business, and you become the real trusted advisor of the senior leaders. And you get to see strategy, and you get to see things that are happening sort of way before anybody else. It was really a fascinating business education for me as well. So I started to sort of have various roles and promotions and everything. But then what happened to me was most of the roles, as that sort of specialism of internal comms grew, most of the roles were in the really big organisations, which meant most of the roles were in London. And for me, that's a 4-hour round trip.
Oh, okay.
So I know, as we all know, corporate life, the more senior you get, the longer you seem to be expected to spend at work. And it wasn't really working for me. So there I was working in London, living 2 hours away, and loving what I did, but kind of thinking, this isn't really for me, because it was making me miserable outside of my working time. So I sort of came home every night, and this was talking 10 years ago now. So this is sort of before we all really had a lot of mobile access to internet, but in the day of online job boards. And I'd come home and I'd be like, oh, I need to find a new job. And it just became this perpetual search to look for a job that used my skills well, but was located to near where I lived, and just kind of became this fruitless search, until suddenly I was like, this is the answer. Why don't I go out there, design my own job, and work for myself?
So that is such a huge step. Leaving a well-paid, good job with a reliable paycheck and deciding to go out on your own. So, there are people who listen to my podcast who are still working in corporate jobs and are maybe trying to think of a way of changing their life and changing their lifestyles to start a new business. So what was, I understand the push. The push was the travel and the time spent. But how did you actually then transform into starting your business, Lucy?
So people thought I was bonkers. It was so I did delay a few months, because it was right at the heart of the financial crisis. I delayed.
A move.
Yeah, well, it is a sensible move. But then people also say, if you can survive, if you can set up successfully during when times are hard,
yes.
Then you should do okay in better times. But so I did delay a few months. I just got married, so spent a lot of money on that. Financial crisis, things were a little bit tricky out there. But I think also that was potentially a plus for me in what I did, because in that internal comm space, actually in times of change, there is still opportunity for those skills. So big organizations that were doing things during that sort of tumultuous time still needed my skills. And the thing for me is that I had a path, and I had a short-term path. And for me, I was lucky in the fact that the comms industry has quite a vibrant interim sector and contracting sector. So for me, the first thing that I did was, I didn't have this lined up when I left, but very soon after actually walking away from the permanent job that had all the benefits, I was able to get my first 3-month contract. So it freed me up. Thank you. So it freed me up from being, but it shows it's possible. And I think I did that through, the history that I'd built up and just getting to know people. And
yeah. So you think you reached out to, you had a network of people and you had a reputation. Would you say that the network that you had would have been online or offline in those days, Lucy?
I would say it was definitely offline. So it was people that I'd met in person, and that it was with a bit of an online element. LinkedIn probably from a professional perspective back in the day, and yes, there'd be people that might sort of introduce me for opportunities that I hadn't met, but largely it was offline back then.
And talking about, this is a great segue into talking about offline and meeting people. Tell us a little bit about your Oxford Independent Consultants meetups.
So, this was an idea that I had earlier this year, really, sort of back in the spring this year. So I live in Oxfordshire in the southeast of England, and it's a very vibrant county for business, big business, small business, and there's endless networking opportunities. You could literally network every hour of the day if you wanted to.
Wow.
And it's tempting. If you're an extrovert like me, it's quite tempting to go out to lots of things, all the things. But just, for some reason, it just really occurred to me that there isn't anything, or there wasn't anything specifically for people who worked as independent consultants. So people who probably had a specialism they've done in the corporate world and were now providing these services to other businesses, but on an independent basis. I just thought, wouldn't it be fun? Maybe let's just try bringing these people together and see what might happen. So I roped in a friend to help me, and we set up, probably literally about 3 weeks down the track, set up our first Oxford Independent Consultants meetup in a cool bar in the city centre, and just set it up on Eventbrite, and had a very simple format to it, with the aim of getting 20 people there. And we got those 20 people. And from that, we started to build this really supportive, really amazing community of people.
How often do you run that, Lucy?
So we meet every couple of months. We kind of, we run this alongside our businesses. So my friend who works on it with me is also a consultant. She works in the change management space, and we do this alongside, running our busy businesses every day. So we're like, we need to do something with some regularity that people get used to, but we need to be realistic about how much we can do. So every other month we have a meetup, but it's gradually growing. So this one, we have our one coming up next week, and we sold this one out about 3 weeks beforehand. So definitely growing in popularity and just bringing great people together.
Yeah, and it's fantastic. It's on my radar to do something similar here, because you've inspired me with that. And it's the fact that the group that you're pulling together are independent consultants. I love that.
And we wondered about what to call it, and this sort of relates sometimes to some of the stuff that I do, but, what should we call it? Well, let's just call it what it does. We could call it something quirky and fancy, but with this, everybody who identifies as an independent consultant, independent professional, whatever, kind of goes, oh yeah, okay, I'm in or around Oxford, this is what I do, maybe I should be part of this group.
No, that's what I love about it, because I run my She Means Business events here in Northern Ireland, and it's wonderful. It's for women entrepreneurs, but I do get people along who are in professions as well. But it's all lots of different kinds of businesses, and actually I quite like the idea of having one for the independent consultants as well, because I think that actually that's really a great way to improve the word of mouth about your business, isn't it?
Definitely. I think there's two key things that we've seen, and were the things that I really wanted to come through in this. One is just that where you have similar businesses, even if they're in different industries, generally people tend to have the same challenges.
Yeah.
So it's great for sharing that. But the other thing is definitely the collaboration. And, you know, even in the 6 months or so that we've been doing this, and we've seen collaborations start to take place. And we're actually going to have that as the theme of one